All right, it's 3 minutes past. I think we can get started. So welcome to this webinar on how you can automate your marketing communications with Make and Customer IO. My name is Jan. I am the co-founder of Meinecke. Let me see if I can get my slides going. So what's on the menu today? We're going to kick it off with a few introductions, and then we have 4 live demos of how you can harness the power of combining Customer IO and Make to automate your marketing communications. And then we're going to wrap it up with a round of Q&A at the end. Inside this webinar, there is, if you see next to the chat, there is a questions feature. So while I'm going through some of these demos, if questions do come up, please use that questions feature. You can then also upvote other people's questions, and then Jill and Bolt are going to grill me at the end of the session, and we'll answer, let's say, the most popular questions. But let's kick it off first with a round of introductions. So as I mentioned, I'm very happy today to be joined by Jill from Customer IO and Bolt from Make. We're each going to do a quick intro about our respective companies, and then we'll get straight into the demo. So I'll start it off. Hi, we're Meinecke. 3 things that you should know about us. So first of all, what do? We help business teams leverage no code and AI in order for them to automate their work. And we do this in 2 ways. So we build solutions, we do implementations for our clients, and we also have trainings. We have a series of online courses where you can learn also to become a no-code operator. We're a team of 7 based out of Berlin, and we are a certified partner of both Customer IO and Make. So I'm very honored and excited to be hosting this webinar for you all today. And now I will throw it over to Jill from Customer IO to say a few words.
Awesome. Thanks, Jan. And hi, everyone. Great to meet you. I'm Jill with Customer IO, and I'm a channel account manager. So for those of you who haven't heard of Customer IO before, we're a customer engagement platform, and we're designed for marketing teams to create data-driven campaigns that really help reach users across all channels at the right time. So we offer 2 products, Journeys being our messaging automation tool that's used for all of your engagement needs, and then Data Pipelines, which is a customer data platform that helps to connect your entire tech stack. So we found that the foundation to any successful campaign is really having all the data you need and the ability to act on it. So with our 2 products, we allow you to do just that. And with that, I'll pass the ball to you.
Thanks, Emil, Jill. Hello, everyone. Good to be here today. Thanks very much to Jill and the rest of Customer IO for inviting us to participate. So it goes without saying, at Make, we're big fans of both Customer IO and Meinecke. And I don't want to take too much of your time because, I know you want to get to the good stuff that Jan's going to present to us today. So let's be honest, we all want to get more done with less hassle. That's where workflow automation comes in. And Make is here to make that happen. So Make is all about power. With over 1,700 connectors, you can create complex workflows that streamline your entire business. Imagine all of your favorite tools and apps working seamlessly together. That's the power of Make. So Make delivers on innovation and speed. Businesses today are fast, they're dynamic, they're ever-changing, and it's a cliche, but time is money. So it's true, right? So Make lets you deploy solutions incredibly quickly, saving valuable hours. Even the most intricate workflows can be set up in minutes. Make, finally, is visual. Our intuitive drag and drop interface puts the power of automation in everyone's hands, no coding required. This visual style of designed workflows is something that really sets our platform apart from the rest. And I guess let's go into Make in a nutshell as well. Let's talk about the impact that Make is having, on a global scale. We've got over 100,000 active organizations in 180 countries, and our platform boasts over 1,700 connectors. We're proud to be backed by Solonis, a leader and pioneer in process mining with a $13 billion valuation. Their belief in Make underscores our commitment to delivering cutting-edge automation solutions. And some of the world's top brands also use Make to power their processes. We've got Meta, Beiersdorf, Personio, and Spotify, just to name a few. So the results speak for themselves. We are highly rated and reviewed across G2 and Capterra, and that's really a testament to the real-world impact that Make is delivering for businesses. So that's pretty much it from my side. Without further ado, I'd like to hand over to Jan.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Bolt, and thanks a lot, Jill. So guys, please make use of having both Jill and Bolt here. Drop your questions into the chat throughout this demo. and let's have a bit of fun. So starting it off with the very first demo, and what I would say is this is probably the most common use case when it comes to combining Customer IO and Make, and that is being able to capture leads from any source and get that into our Customer IO base so that we can obviously communicate with those leads and those contacts. And we'll start with a very basic example, and this is actually a real form that we've set up for Meinecke. So when we were launching a free course, the No Code Operator free course, we created this form so that we could share it around and people could basically register to the waitlist. So that at the time the course was ready, we could then obviously send out communications and get them enrolled and also share the course with their friends. So how this basically all is set up in Make, I'm going to head over to that now. If this is the very first time someone is seeing a Make scenario, I'll go through a few basics. First of all, every Make scenario starts with a trigger. And in this case, our trigger is whenever a new form response is being filled out. So here I have a Tally module. Tally is the form builder that we use here at 9X. And whenever a form response is filled out, this scenario is going to run. We can see here, this was some data from a test response I did earlier. So the form has 3 questions, first name, last name, and email, and that basically comes in here. And then what you can do with Make has basically built integrations with more than 1,000 different applications. So most of your most popular SaaS tools will be here, and you can basically drop them in to your scenario, and any data that you get from one of these modules, so for instance, the responses that the user gave, I can actually use in later steps of my scenario. And of course, Customer IO is one of these apps that Make have an integration with. We can see here, each app has basically a different set of actions that you can do. And for this, let's say the whole webinar, we're going to focus on the first 2 here of tracking a customer event and creating or updating a customer. Now, you may already think, why do I have 2 modules here? Why have I got both the create or update a customer and the track a customer event? Basically, because we have this form, obviously it's just connecting first name, last name, email, but maybe it's not the only form we have. Maybe we have wait lists for other courses. So very important to first capture the information about the user and create their customer profile. And then we actually want to store the lead information as an event to say, hey, this customer has now done this event, because one customer could sign up to multiple wait lists. If we now look inside some of these actions, on the Customer IO side, so we can pass through the identifier, and in our case, we're just mapping to that email address from the first step. We pass the email address again, and then we can basically add a set of attributes. Now, this is for those of you who mentioned that code scares you, this is where you might start to get freaked out. Every, whether it's sending events or updating customers, every update, you can basically send what's known as a JSON. So in the case of the user attributes, we send this as a JSON. And in the case of an event, we have event properties that we can also send as a JSON. Just so that this doesn't scare you too much, I want to give a quick intro into what this is. And for non-technical users, I would say an explanation of a JSON. JSON is just a way that data can be structured. So it's commonly used by APIs to send data from one application to another. And if we look at an example now of structuring data that we're very familiar with, this is like the spreadsheet view or the CSV. If this same data was to be structured in a JSON, this is how it would look like. So we have this set of curly square brackets here first, and this is indicating that there is a list of data. It's known as an array, but you can just think of it as a list. And then within inside these curly brackets, we have each record of our data or each row in our spreadsheet. And rather than having a heading row of first name and last name, in a JSON, these headings are called keys, and they're repeated inside each object. So this is a very, very, like, let's say, simplified demonstration, but hopefully with this, you'll be a little bit less freaked out when working with these in your Make scenario. And even better, the team at Make have actually helped us out here, and there is a dedicated JSON module. So what I can actually do is I'm going to drop this one in, and I'm going to create a JSON. I'm going to drop it in front of this update a customer action here. And we can see here we were just passing the first name and last name. In this JSON module, we can create a data structure. I've actually already set this up, so I'm just going to search this one here. And you can see now, rather than writing out this line of this block of code, I can, in a user interface, map my fields here. So I can say first name, last name. And if I test this action out, and I'll just enter my details here, we can see that actually make is creating this JSON string for us. So we no longer need to be freaked out by it. And what we can do is we can update this action here where we're updating the customer. And I'm just going to map that JSON string that I created. In the case of the event, what am I pushing? I'm, again, identifying the user based on their email address. And I'm creating a lead sign up event. And we have a little bit of data here. This one's simple, so I'm just going to keep it in the written JSON. This is just saying the lead source came from the no-code operator waitlist. So when they sign up to other waitlists, we can send these events as well, and we can see exactly what waitlists the user signed up for. So enough talking, let's test this one out. I'm going to run this scenario and fill out my data here. And I'm going to use a new email address so that we can actually create a new user in Customer.io. We see just like that, Customer.io is that, make is that quick. We've instantly run this scenario. A customer has been created and we've tracked that event. So let's head over to Customer.io, and I'm just looking at my people here. I'll refresh the page, and hopefully if everything's gone smoothly, I should see the record, and there we go. There's the one that I just created. If we look into this, we can see those attributes that I added, the first name and last name. And we can see that also this event that I created for myself, so that even if I were to, for instance, now submit the same form again, this would show up here in events. So this is a very powerful, the way the data is structured in Customer.io, that you have user attributes, which are just sort of fixed for the user, and then that user can perform certain events, and both can be used as triggers for automation. So wrapping this basically up now, that was capturing leads from any source. And we can move over to our second demonstration. If you have any questions on this, remember, please feel free to use the questions feature. So now, I guess probably this might have been the one where most people have joined for. How can we harness AI for personalized messaging? How can we bring AI into our workflows to make them smarter? Now, if you remember this example here that we have this waitlist form, what we intended once the course was ready to launch, we prepared this simple email saying, hey, Jan, your early access is here. You can basically take the course. And we wanted to make this a little bit viral and try and grow this a little bit. So we asked for a small favor, since the course was free, if they could share an update on LinkedIn, letting their network know that they've signed up to the no-code operator free course. And this is where we thought would be a very great use case for AI. What if, instead of just asking them to write a LinkedIn update themselves, what if we could actually, based on answers that they give us, already provide a LinkedIn post? So all they need to do is copy and paste, and hopefully that will increase the amount of people that are actually willing to post about our course. So what we did is, first of all, we updated our form slightly. So we have the basic detailed questions, but then we asked 3 questions to get a bit better understanding of what they're trying to achieve with the free course. We said, what aspect are you most looking forward to learning? APIs, databases, front-end interfaces, SaaS or something else? Which function are you from? And then also, what are your favorite no-code tools that you're looking forward to leverage? So what we could do is we could then improve our make scenario. So this is an improvement on that first scenario. We now have here some more answers. For instance, from the demo one that I set out, which is what am I looking forward to learning, what function I'm from. And what we did is we added in a ChatGPT module. So ChatGPT, another, let's say, SaaS product that Make have an integration with. And what we're doing here is creating a chat completion. And what's really cool now is with this module, you're actually interacting with the ChatGPT API, and you have some additional functionality that you would not have when you're just typing it into the user interface. And also you can do this programmatically. So the way I've set this module up is I'm first giving the system some instructions. So I'm hyping it up a little bit. I'm telling it it's an expert referral marketer with great LinkedIn post crafting skills. And then I give some specific structure to how I want my LinkedIn post to be formulated. And then in the, let's say what we're recreating the prompt itself, we're now mapping those fields that we got from our tally response and giving ChatGPT some answers about that user. So which department they work in, what they're looking forward to learning, and what their favorite tools are. So let me test this one out now with my new user and see if that's basically going to make its way to Customer O. Obviously, I've now updated my JSON to also include those extra fields. And for this LinkedIn post that we're asking ChatGPT to create, I had to do some little bit of editing on the and you can actually do formulas within Make to make sure it's structured the right way in my email. But we'll see that a little bit later. So let me go and fill this out now. All right. For me, I'm a big API guy, of course, with a marketing background, and it would be rude of me not to select Make and Customer O as my favorite tools. So let's fill this in. I'll have a look here in the history, and I think that is let me refresh and see if this has run. And we see right here, this was the run that just happened. Let's take a look at that ChatGPT module, and here you can see that LinkedIn post that it created. So working in the ever-evolving sphere of marketing, that's already pretty good. What intrigues me most about this course is the chance to learn about APIs, and with tools like Make and Customer O promising in-depth exploration, I anticipate acquiring insights into how no-code can revolutionize my workflow. Pretty cool. Let's see how we can now incorporate this in Customer O messaging. So I'm over in Customer O, and this is the first time we're now looking at it. I'm actually in a broadcast. So this is that email that's going to be sent out the moment we launch the course. And I've actually made a slight update to this bottom paragraph. I've now also included the note, we've provided a personalized draft you can simply copy and directly use. And if we look down here, we see what I'm doing is this is very similar to most like email solutions that you work with. With Customer O, you basically have access to what's known as liquid tags. And this is the way that you can get access to these customer attributes and include them in the email. So I'm going to preview this now and search for my new user. And there it is. And we can see now if I look in my email, so of course my first name's been dynamically replaced. And here is that LinkedIn post that ChatGPT just created for me, that when I send this, the person can just copy paste this and post on LinkedIn, and hopefully we'll have more people learning and discovering about our free course. If we look at the user profile, all I need to do is refresh, and we now see that these extra attributes, including the LinkedIn post, if I look here, here's that LinkedIn post, which means that I can just actually take that over and include it in emails. Just to explain a little bit what I was doing with the text editing there, I was basically looking whenever ChatGPT was having an empty line, I was just replacing it with an HTML tag, which indicates the same thing. So wherever these BR tags in the email, they're going to get replaced with an empty line so that we have a very nice formulated email that the person can copy. Pretty cool use case and something we're very excited about. All right, we're moving through pretty well. Let's go into the demo number 3. This time, streamlining promo code distribution. And for this example, we're actually going to start it off in Customer O. But first, I just want to set the scene a little bit. So imagine that you're in the marketing team and you've basically worked with another company to create a collaboration. And in this case, the lovely team at Make basically gave us 500 promo or voucher codes, as we say in Australia, that we can use to anyone who signs up for our course. Before everyone starts frantically screenshotting, these voucher codes are completely made up. They will not get you anything. Stick around to the end of the webinar because we do actually have some free giveaways then. But yeah, these are going to be useless just for demonstration purposes. But what we basically want to do is whenever someone enrolls to one of our courses, the first 500 users, we want to send them an email saying, thanks for enrolling. And here's a free promo code from our partners at Make, which you can use. So how will you look about doing this? Now I'm going to head over to Customer O, and this time we're in campaign. So broadcasts, what I showed before, is for one-time sending, for instance, like weekly newsletters. And campaigns are going to be for more dynamic things, for instance, when a certain event happens, like in this case, when someone enrolls to a course, we want to send out certain messaging. And this workflow that you see here, it's actually quite similarly structured to building out a Make scenario. Both are going to be used for workflow automation. And just to go through a few of the basics here, so we have some different messaging actions. I think this is, for me, one of the ones that really sets Customer O apart is how many different actions you can use. It's not just email. You can send in-app messages and push notifications, Slack, and also SMS. And then what makes it really, really even more powerful is down here in the data section, we can obviously interact with customer data with some of these actions. But what we can also do is send and receive data from external sources. And this is where Make comes into the picture. So I've actually dropped one of these send and receive data actions onto my canvas here. We have the claim dynamic promo. And when I open this up, you'll see the name edit a webhook. And this is where I want to take a quick moment and do a little bit of theory again to just explain what this is so that we're all sort of up to speed and not too scared of this webhook concept. So what is a webhook? A webhook is a way for one app to receive information from another application when a certain event occurs. And basically that information is going to be sent immediately. As soon as an event happens, I want to send some information. And you can think of this as the API equivalent of like an SMS alert. Now, how does a webhook work? A webhook, as I mentioned, it's one application sending to another. So we have always a trigger application and an action application. And what is basically needed for the setup, the action application is actually going to provide a webhook URL. This is going to be just like a URL of a website. This is going to be a URL where data can be sent to. The trigger action is then going to actually send some data, what's known as the payload, over to the action application to this webhook URL. And then what can also happen is the action application can send back a response, also some more data back to the trigger application. And in our example, Customer IO is going to act as this trigger application. In that workflow, that's where we're sending the data from. And Make is going to act as this action application. We're going to receive the data, and then we're actually going to send a response back. So let's take a look back at this example. If I go in to set up this webhook, I've got a few options. I can add some data. And again, now that we know what it is, we're super chill with this. This is just a JSON. It's just some data. We can again use these merge tags to take dynamic information from our customers. So here I'm just taking the ID of the customer. And I need to provide here my webhook URL. I've already filled this in, but if we head over to Make, what this looks like, this is my next Make scenario. Make has an app for this. Pretty much Make has an app for everything. So if there is a thing, Make has an app for it. In our case, we need webhooks. Make has a webhooks app. And it's very simple. All you do is create a webhook and Make will give you this webhook URL, which you can now send data to. Whenever this URL receives data, this scenario is going to run. So this is the URL that I've used here. And what is my scenario doing? I'm actually interacting with the Google Sheets API. And what I'm saying is, hey, this sheet where I have all these voucher codes, can you go in there and please find me the first row? So if I show you here this filter that I've applied, find me the first row where column B, this claimed by row, is empty, where there's no value here. So when this runs next, we expect row 3 to be returned. And then what we're doing in our scenario is simply saying, okay, first thing we're going to do is from now the row that we found in this step, and I'm mapping this dynamically, I want you to update this, and I want you to update the value in column B to have that customer IO ID that we're sending in the webhook. And I also want you to just log the time so we can debug this later. And in the webhook response, we also have access to the column A of that row that we found. I'm going to run this once so you see exactly what's happening. So let's go here and send a test. And I'll send a test. And if I now, so first of all, it's telling me, hey, this was a successful request. This is the data that I'm getting back. I've successfully now got back this voucher code. This claimed by has been filled in, and column C is also being filled in. If we look at our run history here, we can see my webhook was received with my customer ID. Google Sheets had a look for the first row. It returned me row number 3, and I can see the data in row number A. It then updated row number 3 to also basically include my ID and the time. And then this was sent back in the request. One thing that I didn't cover in that first walkthrough is this webhook response. So in Make, you can set a response to the webhook, and we have to give it a status. Status 200 just tells you, hey, everything's all good. And again, we're sending back a JSON. So all I'm doing is sending back the voucher code that we grabbed from Google Sheets. And now I just want to, one more time, test out this whole, let's say, Customer IO campaign. But before I do that, I need to explain what we need to set up in Customer IO to save these responses. So we set up the request in this tab. In the response tab, what I can do is I need to take that data that I get in the response, and I can actually set this to a user's attribute. So I set this to a person's attribute. So at the time, basically what's going to happen is whenever someone triggers this event, this webhook's going to get sent. I'm going to update that user's attribute to also have this make voucher code, and then they're going to receive an email. And in this email, I'm referencing that customer attribute that we set in the step before. So you can see here, customer.make voucher code. Let me run this whole thing now for my test user, and let's see how this goes. So what's very cool in Customer O, whenever I have an event like this set up, it's very easy to test these campaigns. I just need to go over to my, let's say my people profile, and here in the options, I can send an event. So this is a great way to test. And I'm going to put in that event exactly as it's written here. So this is going to be, where are we? A demo course enrollment. So I'm going to go back over course enrollment. There's no extra event parameters that I need to send. Let me send this one off. And this happens in a matter of seconds. I can now refresh my profile. And we can see just like that. First of all, the event, demo course enrollment. Then what happened, I had an attribute change. So if I now look down here on my attributes, I have this attribute make voucher code. And of course, now this has taken the third row, because when I did that test before, it took the second one. So now I've claimed this one here. That has now been saved to my user attribute. And then what happened was we sent this webhook to make that update. Sorry, I think these actually happened in reverse order, but you can just see how quickly this happens in Customer O and Make, that this is literally in a matter of seconds. So both of these actions happen in the exact same second. And then 1 second later, we were able to send that email. Let me pull this in now to see if I received this. And here we go. I'll drag this one down so you can see it as well. Thanks for signing up. Here's a free month of automation, and there is my dynamic code. So pretty cool. Just like that, we don't need to manually email people saying, hey, here's your code. With just basing this off Google Sheets, using Google Sheets of a database, we can dynamically send the first 500 users their voucher code. Now, what I would do in order to, let's say, update this scenario afterwards, you could do in some logic, like if there are no more rows, send back and don't send them this email, for instance, so that they won't receive the email with a blank voucher code. All that step you can add on, but this was just what I would say, like the most basic version for you to understand that logic. So pretty cool use case. And this was actually one that we implemented for one of our customers and worked quite well. So now I'm a bit sad because we've gotten to the final demo of the webinar. We're moving along quite nicely. And here I want to show you how you can boost engagement with interactive email buttons. So what I want to show you here in this scenario of you need to collect some customer feedback, there is the typical email on the left. When you're not a no-code operator, this is what you need to resort to. It's an email that typically does not perform well from a click-through rate point of view. You say, hey, I want to get feedback from users. So I'm just going to set up a tally or a type form, and I'm going to put a big fat button in the middle of my email saying, take our survey. This button sends shivers down a lot of people's spine. They don't want to waste the 5 minutes of their life or potentially longer to fill out this survey. There's a lot of unknowns here, but there is a reason why this scale on the right is pretty much existing in every single airport security that we go through. It is the quickest way to get user feedback. With one click, the user can give some feedback, and then you can also give them the option to provide some more feedback later on. So let's see how we've set this up by combining Make and Customer O. I'm going to start now in actually a Customer O email template. And I've added in my beautiful emojis here. And underneath each emoji, what I've added is a specific link. Now, this is very hard to see here. So I've got all 5 of these links just in a Notion doc for you to see now. And what you'll notice is this is, again, each of these are just a Make webhook. So that webhook URL that Make generates when we create a new one, all of these are the same. And then what we're adding are what are called query parameters. So after this question mark, we can add some additional data. And a lot of marketers would remember this from setting up like UTM tracking, for instance. We would send someone to a website and add some parameters from which source they came from and what campaign it was. This is the exact same way we can send data to a webhook. So we don't always need to send JSON data, we can also send these query parameters. And what I've basically done is again grabbed my customer ID, so I know which user's giving the feedback. And then depending on which emoji, so for the very angry one, I've just put a rating of 1, and for the very happy, 5, and going through the scale like this. So what we've needed to set up in Make is we have that webhook that's waiting for this data. And now Make has a very cool, some very cool flow control features. And one of them is the router. So the routers allows your scenarios to take different paths and basically recreate very complex logic that normally only coders could do. But now we can do it in a very easy to use user interface. And what I've basically set up here is whenever someone goes down the first path, and remember this rating, like everything that the webhook gets, I can use in my scenario. So when the rating is greater than 4, I want them to go down this path, so greater than or equal to 4. When it's less than or equal to 3, I want them to go down this path. And then lastly, all I'm doing is tracking again that customer event. This time I can use the customer ID as the identifier. I don't need to use the email. The event is going to be course rated. And here I have my rating where I'm dynamically passing that value. What we're doing in these responses, which is pretty cool, is if someone is happy with our service, I'm actually going to redirect them to a page where they can leave a testimonial, record a short testimonial video. And you can see here before we were sending the status 200. 200 means, hey, everything's okay, here's your data. Status 302 is giving an instruction to redirect the user to another site. And combined with this location key and value, we can tell the webhook which site should be redirected to. And then what I've done where people are maybe not so happy with our service, I'm redirecting to a form where they can provide some more feedback. But regardless of whether they want to do these next steps or not, I'm still capturing that initial value, whether they rated 1 through 5, which is going to give us some great quantitative data. So let me see now in an email how this looks like. Here I've got an email that I sent myself previously. And let's say, of course, I'm going to be very happy. And we can see here, just like that, very quick, this was redirected to the testimonial. What I'm actually going to do so you can see it in real time, I'm just going to run this scenario once. And now I might do the medium face. This time I've been instantly redirected to my feedback form. If I look at that scenario that is run now, here's the data that I'm getting. This ID gave a rating of 3. I didn't go down this path because 3 is not greater or equal to 4. I went down this path, so I was redirected to my feedback page. And let's see now in Customer I/O if this has made it there. I'm going to quickly, because I did it with another user, so I'm quickly going to grab that new user up here without hopefully exposing any sensitive data. One moment. And here we are. I'll drop this back in. So this was with another demo user that I had before. And you can see here, I'm getting the activity that I clicked on an email, and that course rated event is being sent back to Customer O. And that could then be used again later in another segment saying, hey, follow up with everyone that rated 5+ but hasn't left a testimonial yet. So a really great way to basically boost the power of your emails. Other ways of doing this would be potentially asking for like RSPs to an event, which could be quite cool. Like a little funny anecdote, the way that this sort of came about and how we even realized this was that typically the only webhook that was like the only button in an email that would do an instant action was the unsubscribe button. And I was very annoyed at this. So I thought, why is unsubscribe the only button that does something instantly? We should also add some more, let's say, interactive and fun buttons where users can just have one click and get straight to a dedicated experience. So with that, that would wrap up our 4 demos. But I do have one bonus demo that didn't make the cut. But what we're actually going to do, this one's been recorded, and I'm going to share this in an email to everyone after the webinar. So yeah, check your email inboxes in the next hour or so, and you should see that if you have not been sick of my voice by now. In this demo, what we basically show is how you can also update Customer O collections using Make. So we're actually taking some bulk data from a database and pushing that into Customer O using Make. And then we can basically use this product data inside of our email. So another really solid example. It's about a 9-minute demo. So yeah, feel free to check that out in the email afterwards. And otherwise, Jill and Bolt, over to you. I think it's question time. While we check out the first question, I did promise some freebies. So first of all, if you are interested in taking the free no-code operator crash course to figure out how you can become a no-code beast, feel free. We'd very much appreciate it. Scan the QR code and sign up. Also, the team of Make, very generous. We've got 1 month of Pro plan for free. So you can sign up to that. It includes 10K worth of operations, more than enough for you to test out the platform and build some really cool stuff. And of course, Customer O are also joining the party where you have access to an amazing 3-month free trial. So really not only just giving you enough time to set up your Customer O account, but also to actually build out and test some of these user interactions and see how you find the tool. So we'll leave this one up while we go through the.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jan. And I'll say you got a shout out in the chat that we're giving you a 5 out of 5. So great work today. We've loved being here with you. We've had one question come through in the chat so far. Thank you, Nadim. The question at hand, Jan, is, do you have to map the webhook response to a user attribute, or can you just refer to the response fields? Oops, sorry, we had one more come in while I was reading. Or can you just refer to the response fields themselves within the journey?
Do you have to map the webhook response to a user attribute, or can you just refer? I'm not exactly sure of the question, but do you remember? Do you know which Nadim, which scenario were you referring to? So in general, you don't have to map anything, and you refer to the response field themselves. You mean like just pass forward the whole response later on? I think you would have to basically, the way it works in Make, and let me take this last one here. So you can see our webhook being sent, and whether this is a JSON or the query string, Make will do those each key separately. What you cannot do is, let's say, just say, okay, take this, the whole bundle of the webhook and pass it on. What you could, of course, do is actually just map these again into a JSON, but you would need to determine the keys again. So you do need to do this mapping. So for instance, here, when I want to map the customer, I'm getting that here from this step, and I'm mapping the rating separately. Yeah, there's no way to just basically say, hey, take this whole payload, keep it as a JSON, and pass it on. You always need to do this mapping.
Perfect. Thank you, Jan.
Okay, and then we have the next question from Corey. One of the limits we've run into with CIO is the number of API calls. Sending data with Make like this is very cool, but how you do that when you have millions of users without limiting at the source? Yeah, so this is for sure. Yeah, millions starts getting into the like, let's say, dangerous territory. And especially for instance, if we're looking at a scenario like this, where we really need like one user to be going through this one at a time. One option that you do have with webhooks is you can enable sequential processing to say, hey, don't let the next one in until the previous one has been finished. Because typically if, let's say, Bolt and I at the exact same second both enrolled in the course and we're both claiming a voucher, it's highly improbable that it's like that quick, but theoretically we could be competing for the same row. And to make sure that doesn't happen, we can say down here in the settings, we can say sequential processing, which means Jan has to get his voucher first and then Bolt can get his voucher afterwards. The thing is, what it means is then you have some people in the queue, and correct me if I'm wrong, Bolt, I think the maximum queue size, it's probably depending on plan, but it's around 100 webhooks. So when you are talking about millions of people, what we typically tend to try and do is like scatter out those email sends so that you don't have a million all going at once. But for sure, this is like the beauty of no code is that I can build it myself. There are always going to be limitations when it comes to scale. Hopefully that answers your question.
Right, yeah.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Anything else in the...
See, I'm not seeing anything so far. I know, Bolt, we had some other questions. Corey, we're also happy to take that question offline. I know you and I have worked closely together, so we're happy to support you as well on the back end as we continue to strategize on best possibilities here.
Yeah, and Jill, I guess there was another one, which was, what are the differentiators between Customer.io automations and Make?
Yeah. So what I would say is, in general, you can do like, let's say Customer O is really, it's focused around customer communication. So when we saw in the campaign there, you have the different actions, emails, in-app messages. What they've done brilliant is actually open that up. Some other tools basically really keep this closed and don't let you send out or bring in data from other tools. Make is really an integration platform. What I would say is very rarely does the journey start in Make, whereas very often the journey will start in Customer O. In Customer O, you have all your customer data. You've set up your journeys, your pipeline, so you're getting all the events that your customers are doing. And then the marketing team can easily say, whenever a customer enrolls in a course, do this journey. And Customer O is a great way, is even if you're not sending any emails, using this webhook functionality, even if that, like, whenever customer does Operation X, I want to send them a physical letter, you could just have a campaign that has a send and request data module, ping over to Make, and then Make has integrations with about 10 to 20 API letter solutions in different countries where you can send post via an API, like send physical mail via an API. So really that's how I would distinguish it. Make is really the integration platform. You're getting data from one source and sending it to another. With Customer O, it's typically that the start of the journey is there, customers doing some actions, and then you want to send out. And there's going to be a bunch of times where your workflow just stays within Customer O, where it's a simple customer does X, send email. But now with these two together, you've really got like unlimited possibilities.
Cool.
While we are on the next question, one other little plug is if you did enjoy the webinar, if you do want to follow along, I'm often posting around marketing automation and CRM. So feel free to connect on LinkedIn, and also happy to answer any specific questions you might have around your CRM. So I'll keep this one up for the next question, and then don't worry, I'll send it back over to the freebies.
Thanks again, Jan. And if y'all have any questions, please feel free to throw them in the chat or the questions box. Otherwise, we came preloaded with a couple. So I think one of the questions we often get is, why use Make versus Zapier? We want to highlight some of those key differentiators here. So maybe that's something that y'all can speak to now.
Should I have the unbiased view, or are we letting Bolt do it? I think I can go. So. Both are like amazing tools, I would say. For me, actually, and this is typically a journey I see a lot, I actually started my first automations building were done through Zapier, and then I moved on to Make. And I think this is something that's, especially for people in the US, that I see a lot. So Zapier is very good at, they also have a lot of integrations with maybe like some more complex tools, but they're very good at like straight line automations. Like some of the ones I showed you at the start today, like someone fills out a form, I send that to Customer O. In Zapier, that's fine. One thing is, though, it is a little bit more expensive on operations. So for very simple ones, it would be all right. But with Make, I think the pro plan that you have access to, I think it comes around like $16 US a month, and you get 10K operations for that. It's a really like incredible value. But not only that, is Make, for me, it allows you to go a bit further and create these sort of more complex scenarios where, like I showed here, where you have more logic involved, where you need to actually split off into different branches. And then what you can do is you can, in the other demo that you'll see in the email, we can bundle a lot of data together into one JSON, really working with these modern technologies of JSONs and arrays and APIs. In Make, you're just going to have a lot more ability to go further. So for someone starting, like typically for us, when we're working at a customer, if they're using Zapier, no, like we wouldn't say, hey, stop using that, use this, but there'll be some solutions where we have to actually say, okay, you've got your Zapier for your basic ones, but we'll bring in Make as well for the more complex ones. And I think once people get a hang of it, they really enjoy this sort of idea that you can actually build out your automations in the way you would plan them in like a Miro chart. That sort of this flow chart building is a beautiful way that Make have actually come across this solution.
Spot on.
I'm not being paid, by the way.
No, not at all. Actually, that's one of the things that I find really good. Whenever I'm planning scenarios, obviously we have the editor, but I sometimes actually use a Miro board because it just kind of helps me to visualize it and kind of go through everything there. And then I take it over to Make. Actually, what I first do is I show it to our solution engineer, and he tells me that's not going to work. So I'm obviously and then he does it properly. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and love the comment, Craig. Thank you. I agree. The UI in Make is fantastic and something so simple that even someone like I, who would be a non-technical marketer, can leverage. So thanks for that call out.
Awesome. And maybe since we do have a few minutes, one thing I do want to show for especially the Customer O users thinking about testing out Make. Obviously, as I mentioned, right now the Customer app, it has a few actions. So it's got the basic ones: track a customer event, create or update a customer. You can add people to a segment and delete. But then there is also this one, make an API call. And and you'll see it in the demo, there are, for Customer O, the API is very easy to use. It's very well explained, and you have so many possibilities. You can start interacting with custom objects. So for instance, for us at 9X, we have people, but then we also have courses, and we can create these as custom objects inside Customer O, and all of this can be done inside of Make. Obviously, you need to understand a little bit. Little plug, we also have a course on APIs, which will have everything that you need to do this. But basically, at least you have this playground where you can actually interact with APIs in Make. You don't need to set up a server. You don't need to ask your tech team to spin something up for you. Like, you can actually own the integration yourself, and everything that's possible in the Customer API, you can actually do directly here from Make. So if you are a bit more technical inclined, definitely check out that additional demo that I'll be sending via email. And of course, check out the Customer O API documentation. And yeah, you'll have a really good time playing around with this inside of Make.
Awesome. Thank you again, Jan. Any other questions in the chat that anybody wants to ask? Maybe, Jan, where's your awesome accent from? While we wait for some of these chats to come through.
I grew up in Australia, so I was born in Germany, hence the very German name. But I grew up in Australia, so from Adelaide.
Lovely. Okay. Well, if we have no other questions in the chat, again, feel free to reach out after the fact if there's anything you want to bubble up. Jan will be your personal superhero in terms of answering any questions, and obviously we're all here and happy to help. But otherwise, thank you for joining. Jan, maybe I'll give you the last message here.
Yeah, no, thanks so much for making Customer O for having us. Yeah, it's definitely the two tools that I've used the most as a marketer, and so I was very, let's say, excited to put this together. And yeah, always a pleasure. So yeah, thank you.
Perfect.
Alrighty. Then I hope everyone has a great evening if you're in the European region, or a great start to the day if you're in the US. And yeah, as I said, feel free to reach out if you have any questions to the three of us. More than happy to answer them. Awesome. Bye, guys.